I think there's this like huge lack of patience that a lot of people struggle with because they feel like they need to prove that it's working. And the bottom line is it's always working, but if you can detach time and not make rejection mean anything about you. It's just a not right now, it's a maybe later. So I would say, if you're really thinking about working with the luxury hospitality space, it's having patience. It also can happen a lot faster than you think it can.
My guest today, Franceska McCaughan, built a global career blending her love of flowers with her roots in the hotel industry. As the founder of the Hotel Florist, she now teaches others how to turn hotel partnerships into long-term sustainable business opportunities. It was so wonderful to chat to Franceska, and I hope that you come out of this episode so inspired and so motivated to look at incorporating subscriptions or ongoing contracts into your current business. So let's get into it. I hope you enjoy it. Franceska, and welcome to the podcast. Firstly, I would love to know a little bit about you and how you got into this amazing flowery world that we're in.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here today. And I know that this episode is going to be value packed. So, in order to explain where I'm at today and to really give it context, we got to go back to 6-year-old version of me. And 6-year-old version of me was tramping around her Texas home, picking up wildflowers, picking up branches, anything that was florals, botanicals. Definitely not what a normal 6-year-old would do. I wasn't just grabbing a pocket full of posies and like handing it to my mom. I was designing full scale arrangements in my house, big one for the kitchen table, dining room table, little one for the bathroom. And it was just something that brought me a lot of joy. And I always thought, when I retire one day, I'm going to work in a flower shop. And I had a boyfriend in college that said, "Oh no, you'll definitely own your floral business." And I just thought, well, that's stupid. I don't come from entrepreneurs. I was raised with a single mom until I was 12. I entered the foster care system due to abuse and neglect. Like, being an entrepreneur was not on my radar. And so I just always earmarked the floral dream as a retirement thing. And then I was climbing the corporate ladder, as you do after graduation of college, and I got really, really sick. And I asked myself, am I really going, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, like, what have I done that's been really fulfilling besides chase money and chase this somehow hypothetical dream of success? And I thought, well, there was always that retirement idea. Like, there was always that floral, working in a flower shop one day. And I thought, well, why would we wait our whole life? Like, why would we work another 35 years or whatever just to finally go and sweep rose leaves off the floor and create little bouquets? I was like, I could do that now. So I Googled how to be a florist, and just that is how the floral journey started. And like a lot of florists, I dabbled in weddings and in events and retail, and just quickly realized, like, how do you actually make money in this business? And then I went back to my background, which was in hotels, and thought, well, if I could apply my floral experience, my business to the hospitality world, maybe that would help me stay in business. And then the rest is history. And here we are today.
Yes, yes. And you have been able to create a very unique business with the Hotel Florist. Can you tell us a little bit about what that all looks like today?
Yeah. So what it looks like is having annual contracts with hotels. And some of my clients have even landed 3-year contracts. So I would say a hotel is looking to hire a florist 1 to 3 years. And what this means for you is, instead of looking for 52 different types of clients, you are landing one client that pays you 52 times a year. And so I just thought, well, this is all hard. It's hard to find the brides. It's hard to sit down, have the consultations, do the negotiation, hold the hand of the bride. Like, for me, I didn't love that. And so I thought, well, if I feel really intimidated to go work with hotels, but if I landed a hotel and that one hotel was worth, 50K, 100K for the year, and I could just stack those contracts and then do the same with restaurants and country clubs and retail, and just focus on the hospitality space, wouldn't that make business feel a lot lighter and easier? And I could actually hire, and I could actually take a salary home, and I wasn't just constantly feeling reactive. So what it means to be a hotel florist is just having those luxury hospitality accounts, hotels being the biggest of them, and being contractually connected to them for a year, 2 years, 3 years to provide florals in house for their lobbies, for their guest rooms, and then serve them so that they come back year after year. And a lot of my clients, myself included, have had hotel contracts for years, 3 years, 6 years, and then multiple. And then now you have a scalable business.
I just love the whole concept of it. What is it that, let's sort of talk about hotels, but what is it that a hotel would be specifically looking for in a florist if
Mm-hmm.
you were to go out to them?
So I think this is where a lot of florists put a pressure on themselves that they have to sell, and they don't really know what they're going to sell because they've never worked with this type of client before. So they're like, I hope they pick me, but also like, these are my
Yeah.
rates and you have to pay me. And what hotels are actually looking for is a brand steward. So someone who is going to enhance the brand standards that the hotel already has, because the hotel cares about the guests that are coming into the hotel. And I always say, like, when a hotel hires you, even though they're your client because they're paying you, the actual client is the guest at the hotel. When that guest steps foot on property, you want them to have an incredible arrival experience, and your flowers dictate that behind the front desk, in the middle of the lobby. You want them to have an incredible dining experience. Your little rose or your little arrangement on that table that they're taking flat lays with their coffee and putting on Instagram, that enhances their experience. It also supports the price point that the hotel is charging for average daily rates. How much does it actually cost to rent this room? How much does it actually cost to eat this food or go to this spa? All of that is enhanced with your florals, because now you're adding value to what the hotel is charging versus the hotel charging astronomical prices, and it just feels expensive.
So then, if you approach the hotel, how do you do it? Do you just make contact with the manager or the head of marketing? How does it all come about?
So what's been really successful for me, and what's been really successful with the florists that I work with, is making that connection. So the hospitality space, you have to remember, is an industry that never sleeps. It's 24/7, 365 days out of the year. The management in these hotels, their main career is to provide exceptional customer service to clients. Like, they live and breathe the client experience. So if you're coming in wanting to be an extension of their team, wanting to be a steward of their brand, how can you do that if you don't know them? If you don't even know the general manager's name, if you've never introduced yourself before? They get emails all the time. You know how easy it is to send an email? Anybody with two eyes and a keyboard can send an email. But that's why it's also so easy for it to be deleted, for it to be not read, for it to go unanswered, because
Junk.
it's not a priority. Yeah, into the
Yeah,
junk,
yeah.
exactly. So I always say, like, even though it might feel intimidating to work with hotels, it is so crucial for your success to go into the hotels. The moment you're on hotel property, whether you're having a cappuccino or you're having lunch with a friend, or even if you're just sitting there reading a book, telling them that you're waiting for someone in the lobby, you are considered a guest of the hotel. Like, you're on property of the hotel. And then it's finding, okay, what are they currently doing? How could I do a better job? How could I add more value? So many florists think all these hotels are so wildly obsessed with their florists, and that, they're having such a great experience. But you'd be very surprised at how few florists actually give a damn about their clients. It's always like, oh, let's clean out our cooler. Let's give them the scraps. Oh, like, they're an afterthought. And that is your superpower, especially if you're one of the like smaller florists, you're not one of the big dogs. You have more flexibility. So it's like going on site, seeing what they have, how can you add value, and then making that connection, asking to speak to the general manager, doing your homework ahead of time. If you're like, oh, I don't know how to do that, in the day and age of ChatGPT and LinkedIn, now you're just being lazy.
Yes, so true.
There's too many florists out there saying they want results for work they don't want to do.
Yes, no, that's so true. But yeah, I think that's the key, because getting out there and actually having that face to face, which is really scary. And I know myself, I really, oh my God, I hate those sorts of conversations. But I suppose going in with that mindset of, I want to offer best possible service to this person, I want to show them what I can do, and then just take it or leave it, in a sense, like, not to take it personally either way, because I think that's a lot my problem anyway.
For sure. And we have to like just reframe it as a casual conversation. Again, you're not here to sell yourself. And if we have this deep wound that if we're not chosen, we're never going to grow our business. I look at everything as a seed being planted. So just because you're not harvesting it right now, like let's say you go and plant pumpkin seeds and 2 days later you dig up the pumpkin seed because there's no pumpkin. Well, you're never going to get a pumpkin, right? And that's crazy. But if you were to go back out into your garden, I don't know, 6 months later, 8 months later, or you're going to harvest a pumpkin. Like it's inevitable. So if you think about this first kind of meet and greet, as in not that you're a florist trying to sell something, because you're not. Remember, you're a guest of the hotel. You just had lunch. You just had a coffee, and you happen to be a florist. And you happen to own a business, so you know what that's like. And you happen to see they don't have florals, or they do have florals, or their florals could be better. And you're simply speaking to the decision maker of that business, just like you're a decision maker of your business. And it's just saying, I want to let you know I had an incredible coffee. It was the best cappuccino I've had in ages. I really enjoyed my experience here. You're not here to like blow smoke up their ass, but you are here to give them a genuine connection because, again, this is a hospitality space. Do you know how many complaints they get every single day? Unhappy people talk way more than happy people. So the fact that you come forward, you praise them, you acknowledge them, you happen to mention, I actually own a floral business, so I'm sure you can appreciate, I noticed that your florals look a little tired. I noticed that you don't have florals. I noticed that you have florals, and I would love to know when I could pitch for the next time you're looking for a florist. Now it's a conversation, and they will give you so much information. And even if they say, we're not interested, we don't need a florist, this is literally a seed. So it's like, I completely understand this might not be the right time. Could I get your details and reach back out to you in the next 3 months? I know things change. I would love to connect with you again in 6 months. Now you have a seed that you're watering every day. You're weeding around that seed. Like the seed is going to grow. It's inevitable. But if we put all the pressure of ourself and our identity on that one meet and greet, we're never going to grow anything.
We always put too much pressure on ourselves, I think, when it is putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
So if you were then to have the hotel or the corporate client reach back out to you, what would be the minimum amount of information you would have to give them? I'm assuming you've got to obviously give them pricing, quoting. Do you go full on into mood boards and designs on what you're going to be doing, or is it more specific on individual clients and you'd sort of tackle it a little bit different for each one?
So I talk a lot about this in the Hotel Florist Profit Method, and even in free content, there's always a method to the madness. So that part one is that connection that you have. So now they probably forgot your name, they probably forgot your company, but they're not going to forget the way that you made them feel, right? So the whole point after that casual conversation during your meet and greet is to put something on the calendar. So unless it's a hard no, which is a great, could I have your details and check back in the next 3 months, see if anything's changed and stay in contact, then it's putting something on the calendar. Now, majority of florists are women, so we all love when our partner takes charge, right? When he or she says date night is going to be at 8 p.m. on Friday, wear that black dress, those heels, we're going to have a great time. We're like, yes. Versus, hey, what do you think? Should we go out this week? What restaurant should we go to? I don't know. What do you think? Right? I think all of us are dying inside just reliving that experience. So the same thing is with the GM. So it's like, I would love to come back. I understand like you're in the middle of something. What if we put 15 minutes on the book, say Thursday, 10 a.m. Would that work well for you? I could come back. We could do a quick walkthrough. You also want to be really cognizant with your time. Sometimes we get under the impression if we overgive, we're building like goodwill and they might owe us. That's not how it works. And hotels will milk that. So it's really up to you to guard your time. So it's saying, I can come back for a quick walkthrough. We can discuss this in depth. You're never going to put a proposal forward until you have a budget. That's like car shopping and not knowing what you're going to pay. It's like, well, are you getting a Rolls Royce or are you getting a Toyota Camry? I mean, that's totally different. They both have wheels and they have a steering wheel, but your budget is very different. So it's understanding.
Can I just add on that? Sorry to cut you off. I find that some corporate clients are a real pain in the butt when I ask for budgets. How do you then, because typically I would hit it up by giving them sort of a bit of a ballpark, but it's always different. Do you find, is it just that the clients aren't themselves very professional when you're when they're not giving you a budget and they're sort of just stuffing you around?
I think it's twofold. I think either you're not speaking to the right person, but that person has become a gatekeeper and they need to check this off their to-do list. So like they don't really know what the budget is, but they've been told go find a florist. And so they're going to go look for 3 to 5 different types of florists to bring back to the decision maker. When that's the case, so when they're like, "Oh, we don't know." I'm like, "So do you not know the budget? Is there someone else that I could speak to who would?" And you don't have to fluff around. It's a very direct question. And again, if you were a man, you would not sit here thinking, "Oh, I don't want to offend her." The man would be like,
Yes.
"Hey, if you don't know the budget, who does?"
I need the facts.
Right. And then or there's price shopping and they don't want to give away
Yes.
all their chips because there's unfortunately this horrible, very bizarre, I don't even know where it started, belief that florists try to scam people. The moment you say weddings, you're going to mark it up 10 times. No, that's just what it costs to your wedding. Like that, because
Yes.
I'm a wedding florist. So I just started saying, because I was tired of getting jerked around. I was tired of putting together a proposal. I just said, well, when they're like, "Oh, I don't know the budget," I would say, "Well, company policy is I cannot quote until I have a budget."
Yeah. Actually, that's a
That's our
very good line because that takes a little bit of pressure off yourself
yeah.
then if you want.
It's like company policy. I can't do anything about it. I can't quote until I have a budget. So then they usually start hemming and hawing, and then I'll follow up and say, "Okay, look, I can't quote without a budget. You don't know the budget. I think we could probably narrow this down because now you're making it less confrontational." So you could start saying
Yes.
something like, "When we're talking about a monthly floral budget, some of our clients, they're spending 10,000 a month. Some of our clients are spending 5,000 a month. Which one do you feel like you would be closer to?" "Oh, definitely not the 10." "Okay, so we're closer to the 5." "Well, I don't know." "Okay, so would you say it's like 2,500 or 5,000?" "Oh, well, maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle." Like I just had a client the other day say, "Oh, we want 2,000 per month." And I just came back because I asked. And then I came back and I said, "We would at least have to double that to even start talking." So this saves you so much time. And again, you're a business owner, just like they're a business manager. It's like for like. There is no one out there looking to hire someone to pay them who doesn't have a budget. So you just have to pull it out of them. And that's asking them who does. And then that's also letting them know company policy is I cannot quote without a budget. I'm sure you can appreciate that. That's like going car shopping and not knowing if you want to buy the Rolls Royce or the Toyota Camry. And then
Yeah,
I've also
exactly.
found while we're on this corporate pricing conversation, when they give you a budget, but the budget doesn't match the scope, right? So they've given you the Toyota Camry budget, but they want Rolls Royce.
Yes, exactly. That's very common as well.
So I always say, I'm going to give you my grocery store analogy. Let's say that we're at the grocery store and you have $100 and I ring up your groceries and it's 150. Are you taking back $50 worth of groceries or are you finding an extra $50? Because that's where we're at right now. And again, the more you can frame it where it's like the less pressure off of you, the less confrontational, but you're subtly reminding them like,
Yes.
this is not how it works. That builds respect and authority. Going back to your partner who tells you to be ready at 8 p.m. and wear this dress and we're going to this restaurant, it shows that you're always in charge. And people buy from people that they trust, and they trust you because you seem to know what you're doing. You know
You
more
put
than
it
they
all
do, at
together.
least.
You're
Yeah.
you're giving them all the information, or you're telling them what information you need, and you're giving them all the points that they can go away and make the right decision from.
Yeah. And you can do it with a smile so nobody feels personally attacked. And you can always say, "I'm sure you can appreciate."
Yes, yeah, exactly. What advice would you have? Because I'm sort of thinking, when listening to you talking, that when we're talking $5,000-$10,000 monthly budgets, they're obviously more luxury, higher end hotel clients. Would you have any advice for people that aren't in an area that obviously that have access to hotels?
Mhm.
Because I'm thinking more in Australia, we're very spread out, as you know. I think you've traveled through
Yeah.
Australia, so we're very spread out, and not all towns or cities even have higher end hotel. But where would people be able to, go and businesses they could talk to?
I love this question because at the end of the day, when I talk about hotels, what I'm really talking about is a subscription-based business. It just happens to be with this one type of corporate client who happens to be in the hospitality industry and happens to be luxury. But there's a million different ways that you can do this. And I always said, and I come from a really tiny Texas town, and I know exactly the areas that you're talking about. And I would never want either a flower farmer or a florist just to think, well, I don't live in a big city, so this isn't for me.
Yes.
So what I have seen be really successful, and what I have always said I would do for myself, is focus on long-term care. So senior citizen living, hospice, nursing homes. Those are built-in hotels, so to speak. I mean, they have permanent guests in this
Yes.
facility, and you're creating relationships with the families. So now you're getting all the spin-off work of the birthdays, the weddings, the engagement parties, the baby showers. And what does this actually look like? When you think about someone putting their loved one in a home, or even in long-term care, there is so much guilt that you can't be there for that person. Like, you're out there living your normal life with your family that you now have, and your mom is now in long-term care. But imagine if you created a subscription and you can work directly. It's not about going, again, we can't think about going to the individuals because this would take way too much time, but going straight to the top of these care centers, of these facilities, introducing yourself, saying, this is what we specialize in. And we would love to create a program that you can then offer to your clients whose parents and grandmothers and everything else that are staying in this long-term care as a value add. And so this could look
Yeah.
subscription based. Maybe it's just the flowers on her birthday, so she'll never feel forgotten. Or maybe it's every holiday, or maybe it's every single Tuesday. You create your packages around that, but that is built-in demand right there. And then you have smaller retail. You have your mom and pop shop. Like, I had a flower farmer in upstate New York who was in a really small town, but approached her retail, like her independent businesses in her town. And one of them was actually like a suit manufacturer. And they made custom tailored suits, but they wanted it to feel more valuable. They wanted the experience for their gentlemen and the wives of the gentlemen coming in to feel like more luxurious. And so she had a weekly account. She'd bring in her flowers from her farm, and she signed a 12-month contract with this business. And that was reoccurring revenue for her. And so it's not writing off the fact you don't have hotels. Again, if you want to grow your business, you can't ever be lazy about it.
Yeah. Don't box yourself in.
Exactly. Don't just write it off, but think about, what retail do I have? What small businesses do I have? What about law firms? What about banks? What about retail? I mean, any business that is open to serve people, that is your target market.
Yeah.
Med
And when you
spas.
start
I
to
mean,
think
the list
about
goes
it, yeah,
on.
there's so many
Yeah.
businesses that are open 5 days a week, whatever. And again, the nursing home, I think that's an awesome idea because, yeah, that does give the family the opportunity to just do a regular gift. So when you break it down, there are so many other places that people can look to do this. What would you recommend, like, in the back end of the business? What systems and processes would you need to have in place just to manage all of that and making sure your weekly deliveries are going out every Tuesday, Wednesday for different businesses, or then you're not forgetting those monthly ones, or the ones that only happen twice a year.
Hmm. I love that you asked this question. So I think in the beginning, and this answer might not jive with a lot of people, but I have a saying: get the buffet, then figure out how to eat it. And I think way too many people are out there trying to figure out how to eat food they don't have.
I love that. Just wait until you've got that many bloody orders that you have to figure out how to do it.
Like, that is a good problem, right? And we're
Yes.
always going to have problems in our business, because that's called
Yeah.
growth and evolution. And you want
Yes.
that because that's constantly making you a better business owner. Like, I have a mentor, she says, new level, new devil. And as much as we think once you hit an amount of money, or once you hit a set number of clients, like, it's easy peasy, it's still going to feel like now later. Like, that's never going to change. So you got to fall in love with that level of uncertainty. But when I literally started with an Excel spreadsheet, and it had multiple tabs. And every single Wednesday I would sit down, and that was my business development day. And I would pick up the phone, I would go in person, because what you're not scheduling, what you're not putting attention to, you're not making happen.
Forgetting.
And too many florists think that, oh, if I post this beautiful reel, if I get like 10,000 followers, like, no, this is pick me energy. And I can't tell you how many of y'all are wasting your time. I have a whole album called like flower ideas from free content that I'm getting through you putting out, here's how you put this really intricate
Mm.
mechanical install. And I'm like, you could have totally charged for that, but I'll save that for
I'll
later.
keep
You
that.
know, but like, how is that bringing you a client? And so
Yes.
we don't want to do the work. The work is sitting down, having that Excel spreadsheet, following up with those leads, going to meet in person, taking yourself seriously as a business owner. And then when it gets to the point where you've got multiple clients that you're juggling, you're hiring the team that the client's already paying you for to hire. And then that part's not hard. Then you create the SOPs. Then you figure out, okay, maybe I don't want to work 6 days a week. For me, I made it 2 days a week. And then the team came in. They knew what clients you need to handle every day. You get a little bit more efficient in your streamlining process, how you work with your wholesalers, how you order. But it's growth and evolution. You're not going to know that on day one. So day one, you are literally figuring out, how do I get food? And then when you get the food, it's not hard to figure out how to eat it. It's really not, because you're
Get the
hungry.
job, then figure out the back end.
And it all happens, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. Do you recommend always having a contract? Do
A
you find
million
that some
percent.
smaller business? Yeah, okay.
A million percent. Because as much as we want to think that everything is like rainbows and butterflies, life happens. Let's
Yeah,
say that, God forbid, like I had a client, she got ill to the point where she was in a coma. She had a huge account. And basically, I don't know why, but the whole like business started ghosting this hotel because they didn't know what to do. Nobody wanted to tell anyone she was in a coma. And she had built her business to solely rely on her, which is a horrible move. But life happens, right? We have human
yeah,
experiences. That client was still the client when she got out of the hospital because of a contract. So
yeah.
I've also had it where, hotels get new GMs. Suddenly the GM doesn't want to pay what they were paying before, or the
Yes,
hotel
that's
gets
very common. Yeah.
yeah, or the hotel gets bought. Like one of my hotels went through 3 different ownerships. I did not lose sleep at night about how I was going to pay my employees because I had a contract set in place. So a lot of florists, what I notice happens is they would rather avoid the fear of rejection, aka not getting chosen if they put a contract forward, than actually the fear of regret of when they don't have a contract and that hotel just says one day, hey, come get your stuff, we've got a new florist. And there's not a lot of loyalty. If you're building a business and you think it's all on a handshake, unfortunately it is not 1960 anymore. There's a lot of things that happen, and it's a new level of respect. These hotels are expecting to sign a contract. And in the contract, there's nothing wrong. It actually outlines, hey, this is how you're going to be protected when things don't go according to plan. Hey, this is how we're going to split amicably when we're going to go separate ways, if that were to ever happen, right? So for me, I think it's just a non-negotiable. I think it's part of being a business owner. And I think it's you being responsible, especially if you have people on your payroll.
Yeah. Well, we have contracts in place for our wedding florals and event
Yeah.
florals, so it's really not that unusual, really. I do know that in the past I'm not that I've done a lot of ongoing corporate stuff, but I've never had a contract, and I know many places that don't. So I think
Mhm.
that's a really good point that you've brought in. That yes, we probably need to think a little bit more long term and a little bit more professionally about securing those jobs.
Yeah. And I think, again, they're expecting that. And I know for a lot of us, we think, well, who are we to sign a contract? Like, I'll never forget when I got a red line back of one of my contracts. I mean, the whole thing, they wanted me to basically take it apart. And I got in an argument with my husband, who actually comes from the industry, because he was like, who are you to demand these things? Like, they're Marriott, and I was like, who am I not? Like,
Yeah.
I'm owner of Franceska Flower Design. I'm the one that has to pay these people. I'm the one that has to sleep at night. If they don't want to make sure that I feel safe for 12 months and I'm going to show up 100% for them, I don't want to be their florist. That there's something shady about that. And in the end,
Yeah.
they signed everything I wanted. So we have to remember that we're the CEO of our business, just like they are. And for the clients like Tiffany and Co don't sign contracts. They're very anti-contract. But for them, I just said, okay, great. Then pay for all your stores up front for the year. The cash will sit in our bank account. We will deploy it every single week as we need to. And then we don't have to have a contract. And then that's what we agreed on. So we got paid in full for 7 stores for the year. And then we took care of that without a contract. So it's always remembering everything is a negotiation, but the way
Yes.
you build your business, it has to feel good for you. And you have to think about, where am I going to be in 12 months?
Yeah, thinking bigger picture rather than just these individual little jobs, which is a lot of florists. We tend to just, that's how we think, unfortunately. What would be some of the main, apart from contracts, but what would be some of the main mistakes you see florists do when they're dealing with large corporates?
I would say number one is giving free flowers and expecting something in return. Um, Nobody feels good. First of all, let's talk about it from an energetic standpoint. When was the last time you went to the mall and someone wanted to straighten your hair for free so that you would buy the straightener? Like, never. You're like, please stay away from me. This I don't want your straightener. So there's already something that doesn't feel good. Or like, think about someone in your family when they give you, or they're like overly nice, but you know they're kind of like compartmentalizing in the back of their mind when they're gonna like call that back in, right? They're gonna
Yes,
call that
yeah.
favor in. So that already doesn't feel good. The second part is like, you have no idea what this hotel is actually even looking for. So you might show up with the greatest thing since sliced bread. It might be absolutely stunning. I actually lost a Four Seasons account doing this because I was given the misdirection from a gatekeeper, which is why everything I talk about is from experience. And I created the most beautiful thing that this gatekeeper told me that they wanted. And I'll never forget when the GM walked by, and because it was not an orchid floating in a bubble bowl, which is like a blind person could do that, I was not the right florist. So you don't even
Wow.
know what you're putting in front of them, that they're going to like
Yeah,
that or not. And then the
yeah.
third thing is like, you've already devalued yourself. You've already said, I'm desperate. I will work for free. And I was
Yeah.
actually talking to a client in the Philippines yesterday about this, where I said, the mock up thing comes up a lot. What if they want a free mock up? And we repositioned it to, what if you go in for 1 month and you give them basically 4 mock-ups week after week for 4 weeks? They pay for it. If they're happy at the end of the 30 days, they automatically go into an annual contract. But this way you can actually present to them to scale what it is they're looking for, what it is you're capable of, what it's like to actually work with you, because it's about creating the experience, right? The flowers are just one part of it, but what about the level of customer service? What about how the billing? What about the details? What about the servicing? It's like, again, the hotel expecting someone just to walk into the lobby and decide whether or not that's going to be their favorite hotel in the first 15 minutes versus having a meal with their partner on their anniversary and going upstairs and staying in a suite and all of a sudden deciding this is going to be my hotel that I go to all the
Mm.
time. So I would say the free flower thing. It's not expected. Hotels try to get away with it. Even when I was in the hotel industry, in the sales and catering department, I would see free flowers from florists all the time on some coordinator's desk, and she's going to take it home and put it in her kitchen. Like, and I just felt bad. I'm like, that's such a waste for that
Yeah.
florist. Like, that florist is never going to hear back.
Yeah, it is not going to the place that they wanted it
No,
to anyway. Someone else
no.
has just taken it and doing their thing with it. No, that's very true because I do see that happen a lot as well.
Yeah. Again, we're bypassing the work that we know is going to give us the results that we want in our business. And instead, we're staying busy saying, well, I dropped off flowers and, I tried. And it's like, no, you just actually did busy work that did not go anywhere.
Now, before we wrap up, is there any other advice that you, apart from them coming to check out your business and what you can do in educating them, but any other advice that you would give people that are considering moving into working with corporates or hotels or subscription based business?
Yeah. It's not, it's not a get rich quick scheme. Like, for me, it took me a year to get my first hotel. I will add that I was living 8,500 miles away from where I was pitching, and I went through two GMs, and I went through a hotel owner, and I had to wait for a florist to finish out their contract. But I had that account for 6 years. So do I care that it took me a year? That account probably gave me about 7 figures in revenue through other companies I would have never had experience with like Apple, Tiffany and Co. So if anyone's like, oh, I need this, I'm going to, just, and it doesn't happen in 3 weeks, don't even try. Like, just save your time. I think there's this like huge lack of patience that a lot of people struggle with because they feel like they need to prove that it's working. And the bottom line is it's always working. But if you can detach time and not make rejection mean anything about you, it's just a not right now. It's a maybe later. So I would say if you're really thinking about working with the luxury hospitality space, it's having patience. It also can happen a lot faster than you think it can. I just had someone in my holiday challenge land a private members only club in 48 hours. I've had florists land a hotel in 1 week. So it can also happen super fast. It's just, again, detaching that expectation of time if it's working. And I always say, like, if you show up and you do the work and you do the things that you know you need to do to move your business forward, it is inevitable. I mean, there's a reason why the florists I've worked with have created over $8.5 million in their business, working with clients like Disney. I mean, they just went and did it. So I would say, if you're hardworking, if you're determined, if you know you want to add more brand equity to your business, if you know you don't want to just rely on weddings and seasonal events and like when this like high and low season, if you want to have something that's stable, like, start today, because as soon as you start, you're only now counting down the time to when you're going to see success.
It's all about attitude, isn't it?
Yeah. And I would say, on that note, like, attitude, I always say it's like 90% mindset, right? It's deciding that you get to be a big deal. It's deciding that you are the CEO of your company, just like they are. And whenever you find yourself comparing where it is you think you should be by now, you're basically comparing yourself to some hypothetical version of you that doesn't even exist, versus always comparing to where it was that you started. Like, where were you 10 years ago? Where were you 3 years ago? What did you believe in even 90 days ago that you no longer believe? And when you can actually compare how far you've come, you will always stay in the gains. You will always realize, this is what I've already accomplished. It's only inevitable for me to take it to the next level, versus being in this constant gap of, when is it going to happen? I'm not good enough. It doesn't work like that for me. And that you stay stuck in that mindset. So I would say, anytime you notice yourself comparing yourself to someone you've yet to become, turn it around and look at the version of you that would be so insanely grateful for where you are right now.
Yeah, no, that's true. So if someone listening to this loves everything that you're saying and they would like to work with you, how do they go about that?
Just come and hang out on the Hotel Florist. We're on Instagram. Honestly, I'm in my DMs like every single day. We have a signature program called the Hotel Florist Profit Method. It is where I teach you A to Z how to pitch, land, design for, automate, and scale your business through hotel partnerships. We have a Cliff Notes version of that in the best-selling book, Hotel Florist Profit Method. I personally send those copies to florists in Australia because I know Amazon does not carry it. So I am a steward of my own brand. We have a podcast. There's so much incredible information on the podcast, the YouTube channel. I would just say, come say hi. I always say, don't be a lurker. Like, being a lurker, being a wallflower, it's not fun. You don't get anything out of it. I don't get anything out of it. I really want to see florists step up in their business, grow their business. I can only help you as much as I understand where you're at and what it is you want to do. But I would say, just hanging out on Instagram with me for a while and figuring out, am I your person? Is this someone I want to work with? That's probably the best place to start.
Awesome. And we'll put links to all your Instagram and your website and everything at the bottom of the show notes. Yeah. So anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up, Franceska?
I want to say that anyone can do this. Like, really, like I said, I grew up in the foster care system. I did not grow up with luxury. I hear over and over, like, oh, I didn't vacation in places like that. I feel super uncomfortable. And like, it's just uncomfortable because it's new. And that's why I always say, like, go in the space, even if it's like you need to sit down and bring a book and you just sit there and read for 10 minutes so you can regulate your nervous system. The more you do this, the more it's like working out, right? The first time you worked out, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is so humiliating. What do you mean I can't lift 40 pounds or whatever the thing is? And then you went a few more times and you're like, look at me, I'm a badass bitch. Like, I'm a superwoman.
Yes.
So it's remembering that you've just got to put in the reps, but it's so possible. It's so available. Sure. Are there certain markets where maybe it's not as common, or maybe it'll be a little bit harder? You might have to be a little bit more creative. Sure. But I mean, I've done some hotel work in Perth. Like, I understand that there's hotels in Australia that hire hotel florists. It just starts with deciding that you're going to be that florist. And then it's like everyday thinking from that place. Like, if I was already their hotel florist, what would I be posting? What would I be doing? Who would I be calling? What meeting would I be having? And it's really just like I keep saying, it's just deciding that you get to be a big deal, that you really get to grow and evolve this company, and making everything a big deal. You are in a write up, celebrate that. Not one post. Talk about it every single day for 30 days. Like, that is a huge deal that you were in a write-up. You just had like your biggest month ever. You just had your highest cash year ever. You just landed your first corporate client. Talk about it. Storytelling. This whole idea that you're putting out like perfect reels and you're talking about mechanics and, you know, some sort of like, it's boring. People are scrolling. It's not activating. You're not standing out as like, why should someone hire you? Why are you the one? And so storytelling is huge in your content, and just putting in the reps, like the results are inevitable.
Awesome. I tell you what, I feel a little motivated now. I was like, yeah, I could do this.
You can do it.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And yes, hopefully everyone gets something from this, because as I mentioned earlier on, I've listened to you on various podcasts, and I've read a bit about your business, and I just think it's awesome. So thank you so much for
Thank you for
chatting with
having me.
me.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much.